So as we're starting, I'd like to invite you to sit down. And if you have something that you can sit on, like a cushion, maybe even roll up the cushion so you get a little bit more higher elevation, or if you have a bolster to sit on or a couple of books or something, that can all work. So just sit with a sort of tall spine, just sitting comfortably, and you can close your eyes. And in actual fact, this is a good reminder that this is much more about you listening to my voice than you looking at what I'm doing, because I might not always be doing exactly the same thing that you're doing. And also, I want you to be with your own practice rather than having to turn towards your screen the whole time and compromise your neck. So, for all of you, please keep yourself safe during this practice, particularly if you're new to the practice. You don't have to do everything. Make it comfortable for yourself. Rest, sit down, make sure you're breathing. I will give some options that are pretty challenging. They're really not for everyone, but some of you have been practicing for many years, and I want to keep some of the element of what I offer in class. So it can also be, a little bit more challenging. So, I say this often. Take the privilege, or you have the privilege and you have the responsibility to look after yourself. So please do. And then just feeling the body sit, and feel what it's like to have taken this pause in your day, now halfway through the day and at the end of the week. And maybe this was, for many of you, a highly unusual week. So just notice, check in for a moment. How are you feeling? And just allow yourself to be honest with yourself with that. Allowing yourself to feel into any restlessness or worry or anxiety. This is really a highly unusual time with a lot of uncertainty. And I've just been thinking this morning, the Buddha would probably have a field day right now. He'd probably just go, well, I told you so. So, for him, that teaching of uncertainty is really at the basis of everything he wanted to teach us. The fact that things come and go, and they're really largely, to a huge extent, outside of our control. And this is a time right now where, more than ever before in my lifetime, certainly, this becomes very obvious. So it's like, okay, I get it now, And the Buddha said this uncertainty causes suffering. And I'd be quite surprised if there weren't, many of you right now who've experienced some of that suffering already, in the form of feeling quite stressed or feeling anxious or not being able to sleep so well at the moment. Maybe not all of you, but I would hazard a guess it's the majority of us that have felt these things. So, the teachings of yoga, the teachings of the Buddha, they give us some ways to start to work with that. And, one of the qualities we can invite into our life right now and cultivate, and I've mentioned that earlier this week, is patience. The Pali word for patience is khanti. And patience has a sort of quality of the translation of khanti is sometimes given as not being affected by or being able to bear with what's present. And I think it's fairly safe to say that we've certainly all been affected by it in some way or other. But, how can we cultivate inside ourselves a quality of being able to bear it, being able to stay with that challenge, that difficulty? And this is what practice provides. It provides a ground for us to then stay with whatever comes. So just notice the body is sitting, and notice that the body is also breathing. Be patient with any emotions and feelings or discomforts that arise right now. And allow the breath to gently deepen. So there's a sense of breathing in and out through the pit of the throat, so that there is a soft sound of the breath resonating at the back of the throat just because we gently narrow the epiglottis. And allow that sound to be your sort of baseline hum for practice, as that underlying grounding, resounding, almost like the sound of Om when we chant in class, that gentle hum of the breath that keeps you connected to presence. And if you're sitting cross-legged, you could just briefly change the crossing of the legs. But if you're nice and stable, just stay where you are. You could open your eyes if it's more comfortable, but very simple movement. Take an inhale, reach the arms out and then up and overhead. And with the exhale, press the palms down as if you could press the air into the ground. Again, take an inhale, reaching the arms out, up and overhead, and let the exhale have that grounding quality, rooting you, calming the nerves. One more time, inhaling, reaching the arms all the way up, and exhale, pressing the palms down through the center. And then place the right foot flat on the floor in front of you and hook your right arm underneath the leg and pick it up. And you can hold your wrist with the other hand and circle your toes around the ankle. Circle in the other direction. Circle at the knee so that the whole lower leg moves. And then circle in the other direction. Breathe in, come to center. You can flex the foot and exhale, lift the heel so the leg straightens a little more. It doesn't matter how far the leg straightens. Inhale, bend the knee. And exhale, flex the foot. And straighten the leg. Inhale, bend the knee. Now you can point the toes and then also straighten the leg a little bit more. Inhaling, bending. And exhale, extend. Inhale, bend, and then exhale, place the foot out to the side a little bit more so that you can take the right arm inside the right leg and press the arm into the leg so that you can start to rotate the torso open towards the opposite side a little bit more. And then the free arm could reach back behind you, rolling the shoulder back, finding some freedom through the space of the heart. A lot of anxiety manifests itself as sort of tightness of the chest. So just open physically that space a little bit more. Anything we do physically also affects our mental state. And then release and fold the right foot in. Place the left foot on the floor in front of you and hook the arm underneath the thigh and then pick up the leg and hold on to the wrist and circle the toes. Circle in the other direction. And then circle the shin in both directions. And come to center. You can flex the foot, inhale. Exhale, lift the heel and extend the leg a little more. Breathe in. And breathe out, stretching the leg. Inhale, bend, point your toes. Exhale, lift the toes a little further towards the ceiling. Inhale, bending. And exhale, extend. Bend with the inhale, and then place the foot out to the side. And take the arm inside the leg and gently press the arm into the leg. You could even snuggle your shoulder a little closer to the knee if you have the mobility to do that, but it's not important. And then there is this encouragement for the torso to turn around and open, and maybe the arm to follow if that feels okay for the shoulder. And always take care of any body parts that have maybe a weakness or an injury, and back off. Just work gently with a sort of kind and loving connection to yourself. This is so important. Then with an inhale, come back. And with the exhale, take your feet back and come to an all-fours position. If your knees are sensitive, you could always have a blanket underneath your knees, if that's helpful. Place your hands flat on the floor so that the wrists are underneath your armpits, and spread your fingers. The knees are underneath your hips. Tuck your toes under. Take an inhale and let the center of the spine sink, and keep the neck long as you reach the breastbone forward. With an exhale, point your toes and lift the center of the spine up to the ceiling for this cat stretch. Let the chin come to the chest. Tuck the toes under, inhaling, tipping the pelvis forward, and here the elbows are soft and they hug in towards each other, and the neck stays long, the gaze is on the floor. And exhale, point the toes, press the tops of the feet down, and engage the abdominals as you round the spine. And then one more time, inhaling, tucking the toes, hugging the elbows towards each other, lifting the heart. And exhale, point your toes and round the spine. Gather the chin in. Inhale, come to a neutral spine and walk your hands forward just a touch, not so much. And then tucking the toes under, lift your knees, shift your sitting bones back behind you so that the spine is spacious and comes sort of in line with the arms. And if the shoulders are tight, keep your shoulders a little further forward. But wherever you are, there's a softening of elbows and a hugging back and towards each other. Take an inhale and bend your knees deeply. And then exhale. Straighten the legs a little more. Let the heels come a touch closer to the floor. Inhale, bend the knees. And exhale, let the heels drop towards the ground. If your mat is slippery, hold on to the outer edges of the mat. Inhale, bend your knees. And exhale, straighten your legs, let the heels drop towards the floor. Then bring your knees down to the ground again. Bring your shoulders forward. And this is not an all-fours position, but you're in a plank. So the body is in a straight line, but knees are on the floor. And then lift your shins so that the toes point up towards the ceiling. Take an inhale, look slightly in front of you on the floor, and then exhale. Shift the breastbone forward, but keep the shoulders back as you bend the elbows. Inhale, straighten the arms. Exhale, shift forward, chaturanga on the knees. Inhale, lift up. And exhale, shift forward. You don't have to bend the elbows much if you're just building up strength. Inhale, come up. And then exhale, come back into downward facing dog, lifting the knees. Shake out the head, yes and no. So the neck is completely free. And then from here, take an inhale and lift the right leg. It doesn't matter how high, but try and keep it straight. Exhale, circle the toes around the ankle. And inhale, circle in the other direction. And then exhale, step the right foot forward. And if it doesn't quite get forward, take the hand to the ankle and help the foot forward. Then bring the back knee down. If it's difficult to get the fingers to the floor, if you have blocks, use them. Otherwise, use books. You can stack them up. Always good to have a stack of books near you when you do these practices. Take an inhale, lift the heart forward, roll the shoulders back. And then exhale, straighten the front leg as you shift the hips back. Let the front foot flex so the toes come off the floor. Inhale, bend the front knee. You could use the books or bricks at whichever height works. And exhale, shift the hips back, straighten the front leg, keep the shoulders back if you can. Inhale, bending the front knee. And exhale, straighten the front leg and keep the spine as straight as possible. And then inhale, bend the front knee. And with the exhale, walk your hands onto the front thigh. And as you do, lift the belly in, lift the frontal hip bones up. so that there is an internal rotation, a mild one in the back thigh. And then pressing the hands down into the thigh. See if you can find that lift and lengthening a little bit more, the tailbone dropping down a little bit more, and then lift your arms up and overhead, bend your elbows, and the fingers can sort of touch each other behind the head or behind the back. And then there is a sense of lifting through the space of the heart and also sinking forward through the hips without tipping the pelvis forward. Take an inhale, lift the arms up. Exhale, take the left hand to the outside of the right knee and bring the other hand around your back. And then press the front knee into the hand and turn yourself around towards the right. Breathing here, there is still the steady rhythm of the Ujjayi breath, soft sound at the back of the throat. So you can always come out of a posture early, make it your own, and then release and place your hands to the floor. Now lift the back knee, take an inhale, come into a plank position. You could always stay here, particularly if you're newer to the practice, or straight legs or knees down, chaturanga. Shifting the breastbone forward, keep the shoulders buoyant, and then hips can come down. For cobra, roll the shoulders back. If you feel ready to take it straight into upward dog, lifting the thighs and knees, go for it. Elbows are soft. And then exhale. Let's all meet in downward facing dog. Take a few breaths here. So plank is a great initial way to build up strength. Chaturanga is not a great pose for any shoulder issues, and you have to build it up slowly because it's a very strong pose, requires a lot of upper body strength. Take an inhale and lift the left leg. Again, doesn't matter how high. Exhale, circle toes around ankle. Inhale, circle in the other direction. And then exhale, step the foot forward inside the left hand. Use whatever means you need to get there. Hand on the leg is helpful. Back knee down, use your bricks or fingers to the floor. Inhale, hard forward, shoulders back. Exhale, straighten the front leg. Inhale, shift forward. If you don't have any props, keep your hands on the knee. Exhale, shifting the hips back, straighten the front leg a little bit more. Inhale, bend the front knee, hard forward, shoulders back. And exhale, straighten the front leg. Inhale, bend the front knee. Now exhale, walk your hands onto the front thigh, lifting the belly in, lifting the frontal hip bones up so that the tailbone lengthens down, and then press the hands into the thigh. See if you can lift the chest, the torso away from the hips a little bit more by pressing the hands down, maybe sliding the hands in. Then lift the arms up. Bend the elbows, elbows close to the head, fingers come together. See if you can find a little bit more space in the heart, which is often, so congested in times of stress. So breathing into the lungs, breathing into the space of the heart. And then exhale, release. Opposite hand comes across to the outside of the knee so that it's a twist. The other hand is behind you. You're doing great, guys, lovely. Pressing leg into hand, and that helps you to find a little more rotation. Again, keep the navel in. And then looking forward, inhaling. Exhale, place the fingers to the floor, lift the back knee off the ground. With an inhale, take a big step or several steps forward. Lengthen the spine. You can slip the hands onto the shins or even the thighs to get the spine to be completely straight. And then exhale, fold into a forward bend. And again, inhale, straighten the spine so it may lift halfway, so it's almost sort of parallel with the floor. And exhale, fold. Inhale, lengthen the spine. If you have long arms, the fingertips could be on the ground. And exhale, fold forward. Then bend your knees deeply to come into a chair pose. Reach the arms forward or forward and up. Draw the lower ribs down towards the pubic bone. Sink deeply into your chair. Breathe and feel the power of the legs supporting you. And then with the next inhale, straighten the legs, reach the fingers to the sky. And then exhale, release the hands, and you can rest with your hands on your heart center for a moment. And the feet a little separate so that you can stand in a way that is stable and feels safe and grounded, maybe closing your eyes for a moment. Notice any initial heat that has arisen in the body. Notice how the body feels. Maybe out of breath, maybe tired already, maybe, it's whatever is true for you right now. Staying present. Being completely present is a great antidote to anxiety and worry. And then release your arms down by your side. Take an inhale and reach the arms all the way up and overhead. The head could follow the movement if that feels okay for the neck. And then exhale, soft knees, fold into a forward bend. Inhale, lengthen the spine, rolling the shoulders back. And with the exhale, step back into a plank position. Take an inhale here and lift the navel up towards the spine, buoyant and strong through the body. And then if it feels available to you, bend the elbows, come into chaturanga, knees can be on the floor. And then either cobra with the hips on the ground or upward dog. In either case, the elbows are bent and the gaze is to the nose, but the chin can lift. And then exhale, downward facing dog. Take it back. Take a breath here, softening the elbows, hug them in towards each other. And then with your next inhale, lift the right leg back behind you, try and square the hips. And exhale, bring the knee into the chest, bring the shoulders forward, round the upper back so that the abdominals switch on a little. Inhale, lift the right leg up behind you. Exhale, right knee to right armpit. Inhale, lift the right leg up behind you. Exhale, knee to the left armpit. Inhale, lifting the right leg up behind you. And exhale, step it forward. Use your hand on the ankle if that's useful. Inside the right hand, back knee to the ground. Take an inhale, keep the back toes tucked. Lift the arms up. Lift the frontal hip bones, just like we did before. Exhale, straighten the front leg, and you can certainly have your hands on the leg if that feels more stable. Bend the front knee, inhaling, lifting the heart. And exhale, straighten the front leg, reach the breastbone forward. Bend the front knee, inhale. Exhale, straighten the front leg. Wobbling is very likely here. Bend the front knee, inhale, lift the arms. This time lift the back knee off the floor, exhaling here. Breathe in, find your balance, the foundation and grounding through the feet. Exhale, drop the back heel down, open the arms into warrior two. So the back toes are slightly facing in, the front heel faces the back instep, and the back hip comes forward a little bit, and then the pelvis is pretty much level. So the front hip is on the same level as the back hip. And then reach your arms out. Soften the shoulders. You can gaze over the front middle finger and breathe. Maybe a slightly deeper bend in the front knee so that it comes closer to the space over the ankle, but don't let it come over the toes. Turn the front palm up. Place the back hand on the thigh. Take an inhale and come into a side warrior, lifting the top arm up. And then exhale, bring the front forearm onto the thigh, and with the back palm facing down, sweep the arm forward, up, and overhead. Any shoulder issues, you'll be here. Always make it work for you. Press the bottom forearm down so that there is a lot of space between the shoulder and the ear. And the top arm is an extension of the back leg. And then the cheek could turn to face the top tricep if that's comfortable for the neck. And then with an inhale, come up, straighten both legs. With the exhale, turn the toes to the left edge of the mat, and then bring your heels in and bend your knees. so that again, the knees are over the ankles. And then we add a little shoulder stretch. So take your front arm, the one that faces the front of the mat, and wrap it underneath the back arm. And take Garudasana arms. And if you have tight shoulders, press your forearms together. And that's just as good. And then trust the legs to carry you. Can you sink down maybe just a touch more? It's going to be quite a tricky one for balance as well, actually. Then release the hands to the hips. Take an inhale, straighten the legs, turn your heels out. And exhale, fold forward and take your hands onto books, or if they're not available, just dangle here for a moment, or fingertips to the floor. And you could stay still here, or you could move with your breath a few times, lifting the torso with the inhale, softening down with the exhale. So I really encourage you to find modifications that work for you, and that applies even if you're really new to the practice. Just be intuitive. Do what feels good. Don't do what feels terrible. So be patient and be kind. Take an inhale and lengthen the spine, whether the hands touch the floor or not. Hands could be on the hips here. And then with the exhale, walk your hands forward and turn your toes around, bend the front knee, and you're in a runner's lunge. Place your hands flat. Inhale, come into a plank pose. Take your feet together. You could always stay here and build up strength, or drop the heels to the right for side plank. And then maybe get the left arm off the ground and lift the arm up. Soften the bottom elbow, hug it to center. A little bit of support can be reached by bending the top knee, placing the foot in front of you so that you can really press down into that foot. You could be in downward dog now. You could be sitting down now. Take an inhale and come back into plank if you're still there. You could take a vinyasa chaturanga on the exhale, upward dog or cobra on the inhale, downward dog on the exhale. Take a breath or 3 here, or you could drop the knees and point the toes and shift the sitting bones back to the heels for child's pose. So for some people, this is a comfortable resting pose. And for other people, it really isn't. Puts a lot of pressure on the knees. Then lying on your front could be a good option to rest. And if you're interested to take the second side, then let's do the second side together. Take an inhale and lift your left leg. And exhale, take the knee into the chest, round the spine and gather the thigh as high as you can to the chest. Inhale, lift the left leg up behind you. Exhale, bring the knee to the armpit, shoulders come forward. Inhale, lift the left leg up behind you. And exhale, bring the knee to the opposite armpit, over to the right. Inhale, lifting the leg up behind you. And exhale, step the foot forward inside the left hand, or a little behind the left hand, of course, is great. Back knee down. Use hands on leg if that's useful, or go free floating. Inhale, lifting the arms up. Exhale, flex the front foot. For me, it really helps to keep the back toes tucked under, helps my balance. Inhale, shifting forward, lifting up. Exhale, straighten the front leg, heart comes forward. Bend the front knee, inhaling, heart lifts. And exhale, straighten the front leg, breastbone reaches forward. Inhale, bend the front knee, reach the arms, and this time lift the back knee. And you might need a couple of attempts here, and that's fine. You can always sort of step the back foot a little bit closer to find this lunge stance. And then with your next exhale, take it into warrior 2. Again, back hip forward. You could even use the hands on the hips like I'm doing, finding a little bit of levelness. And really referencing your own body more than mine, because the camera will also distort certain things. The arms float wide, the neck is relaxed, the breath is supportive. Turn the front palm up, back hand to back thigh. Take an inhale and come into a side warrior. And then with the exhale, bring the forearm onto the thigh, and with the back palm facing down, sweep that arm forward up and overhead, taking any modifications for the shoulders to keep them happy. Press the bottom forearm down, keep the shoulder away from the ear. Hug the top tricep in towards the cheek. So there is an external rotation in the upper arm of the top arm. Then, with an inhale, come back up and straighten both legs for a moment. With the exhale, turn to the right edge of your mat and then take your heels in and bend your knees so that your knees come over the ankles and you find yourself in that horse stance again. Pressing the forearms together, or Garudasana, so the front arm, the one that's closest to the front of the mat, wraps around and underneath. And then the elbows lift, the hands move away from the face. Maybe the hips sink just a little bit more. And then take the hands to the hips, straighten the legs, inhale. Turn the feet so they're parallel. Exhale, fold forward. Holding on to your elbows could be an option. Let the head hang. Taking the hands to the floor, interlacing hands behind. Any variations here? Some of you have an inversion practice here. We're just taking this to have a little pause of whatever nature. If your feet are on the ground, then shift the weight towards the toes a little bit more rather than hanging too far into the heels. And the hamstrings will prefer that. If you're upside down, now's a good way to come out of it. I mean, we're all upside down, but if you have your feet off the floor, then come out of it now. So that when we inhale, we can all lengthen the spine, lift halfway. And then with the exhale, walk your hands forward, turn your toes around. Step back, take an inhale, and bring your feet together. And again, you could skip this part entirely, particularly for shoulder issues or wrist issues. And the right fingertips can stay on the ground, or you lift the arm all the way up. Use your legs to lift the hips. And if you have wrist issues, your forearm could be on the floor here rather than the hand flat. And that'll take the pressure out of the wrist. Bottom elbow hugging in, so it's not entirely straight, it's active, supporting. So you're not relying on bones. Inhale, plank. And then with or without the vinyasa, finally come to downward facing dog. Knees could be down. This could be a child's pose. And if you are in child's pose, then there's nothing you need to do for a moment because we'll all come to sit in a moment anyway. So just stay where you are and join back in a moment. Otherwise, from downward dog, at the end of the exhale, soften the knees, look ahead, and then step, walk, or hop forward, lengthen the spine. Inhale. And with the exhale, fold into a forward bend. And then bend your knees deeply and come into a chair pose. And you could either fingertips down, drop the knees, swing the feet out, come to sit, or stay here, round the spine so that you can come to sit. This works particularly if you have really long Achilles tendons, so it really doesn't work for everyone. Then shift your feet forward a little bit more, interlace your hands behind the head, round the spine, let the lower back come towards the ground. Any neck issues, back issues, keep the head on the floor. And then take an inhale and lift your feet off the ground. And exhale, curl the knees into the chest and lift your lower back off the floor. Inhale, reach the feet close to the ground, way forward. The further forward, the harder it is, the more the abdominals work. Exhale, knees in, lift the lower back. 3 more. Breathing in, breathing out. Inhaling, feet forward and down. Exhale, knees in, and the higher you curl off, the more the abdominals work. But don't use momentum. Use the strength of the abdominals. Inhaling and exhale. And then either rock up to sit or roll to one side and come up to sit. Place the hands underneath the thighs and pull the legs towards you. Roll the shoulders back at the same time. And then lift your shins. And doesn't matter how much you straighten the legs, entirely up to you. You could release your hands if your back is happy with this. This is nice back strengthening work and also gets the thighs to work. Then from here, place your feet on the floor in front of you. Press your hands down so that you can lift your hips off the floor, come onto your tiptoes. Lift the hips up a little bit higher so that the heels can come off the ground again, and bring your elbows to the inner thighs. Then press your arms out and resist with the legs. Press your legs in so that the body is maybe starting to shake a little bit. Then round the spine, tuck the chin into the chest. Feel the power of the abdominals working. And then release your fingers down, let the hips lift, hang down, shake out the head, relax. Then either do this one more time or we'll take it into a crow pose. So the preparation work is probably the harder work, strengthening the upper body, legs, and core. For the arm balance version, you want healthy wrists, so don't put pressure into the wrists if the wrists are delicate or injured. Squeeze the legs into the outer upper arms. Look forward, round the spine, just like in the preparation. Lean forward. The rounding of the spine will help you to lift the feet off the floor, shaking here as much as you need to. And then we meet in downward dog in a moment. So if you want to take the transition to jump back into Chaturanga, be my guest. Maybe you haven't left your child's pose yet from previously, then that's very good. And you could decide whether or not you wanted to join in now. And we'll do one more round, similar to what we did before in the standing sequence. Take an inhale and lift the right leg up behind you. Exhale, bring the knee into the chest and round the spine. Inhale, lift the right leg back and up behind you. Exhale, knee to right armpit. Inhale, lifting the leg. Exhale, knee to left armpit. Lift the leg, inhale. And this time, exhale, step inside the right hand. Then bring the back knee down. Just for one round this time. Inhale, lift the arms. And exhale, straighten the front leg, heart forward. Then the front knee, inhale, comes straight up into the high lunge. Exhale, continue straight into warrior two. Let the breath guide you. Inhale, side warrior. Exhale, front forearm to thigh, and this time, wrap the back arm behind your back. Stay here, or take it into a bind. If you're attempting the bind, the bottom arm comes underneath, and the back of the hand comes to the outside of the thigh. Do not lean forward and stick your bum out, at least not once you've found the bind, but instead lean back. If you need to stick your bum out, don't worry about the bind. It just puts pressure on the knee, not a good idea. Look down. We're going to step towards the front of the mat. Release the bind or keep the bind, entirely up to you. Take as many steps as you need to bring the back foot forward. Now, if you're not binding, You could try binding from here. Bend your knees, stick the right arm in between your legs, then take the palm out and reach the arm out to the side. Then take the hand onto the outer thigh. Then from the outside, the other arm could come around and maybe you can catch your fingertips, and don't worry if not. Lengthen the spine, reaching the crown of the head away from the tailbone. See if you can straighten at least one leg a little bit more. Now there's the option to keep the bind to come up for bird of paradise. If you're not binding, don't worry about it. Shift the weight into the right foot, lift the chest, come up to stand. If you're bound, feel free to extend the leg. For most of us, see if you can place the foot inside the thigh, either underneath or above the knee. If balance is tricky today, keep tiptoes on the floor and keep the heel just above the ankle. Press your palms together with the forearms in a straight line, so that pressure can help us to find balance again. Then from here, if you're binding, again, you can keep the bind, lean forward and slow motion, place the foot on the floor, and then you can release your right hand down inside the front foot or onto the shin, step the left leg back. We're just retracing our steps. And then take an inhale, free the bind if you're still binding here, lifting the arm up. And then with the exhale, release your fingers down. Lift the back heel off the ground. And then take an inhale and come into a plank position. And straight into child's pose is great from here, or there's one more side plank option if you want to take it. Remember, the forearm could be on the ground. You want the forearm to be about at a 45-degree angle. Lift the hips and create an arc shape. If you want to lift one leg, go for it. Entirely up to you. Then inhale plank. With or without vinyasa, let's eventually meet in downward dog. And just one more side to go. Feel the body breathing. Feel the heat in the body, the sweat. And just let this fill your experience rather than having to think about anything else. You can attend to anything else again later. But for now, just the body, just the breath. Just this thing now. Take an inhale and lift the left leg. Exhale, take the knee into the chest, bring the shoulders forward. Breathe in and lift the left leg. Breathe out and take the knee to the left armpit. Inhaling, lifting the left leg. Exhale, come across to the right armpit. Inhaling, lift the leg through center. And then exhale, step the foot as far forward as you can get it with the help of the hand, maybe. Back knee to the ground. Inhaling, lifting the arms. And exhale, straighten the front leg, shift the hips back. Bend the front knee, inhale, lift the back knee off the ground. Exhale, drop the sole of the back foot down. Make sure the back toes are in slightly. Back hand to back thigh. Inhale into the side warrior. Lift the front arm up to the ceiling. Exhale, bring the front forearm onto the thigh. And the back arm travels behind now, reaching towards the front thigh. And for those of you who are interested, keep the movement sort of contained to the midline. Try not to shift your hips back too much. So don't do this sort of thing, but keep everything contained to the midline. Don't worry whether you're binding or not. And then again, we're going to step forward with or without the bind. So look down, look towards the front of the mat in as many steps as you need to. Step forward, wobble, fall out, everything is allowed. We're very generous. And then if you're not binding, you could bend the knees And stick the left arm through the legs, reach the palm out and place the hand onto the outside of the thigh. And then the other arm can reach around, and maybe there's a bind there, but don't worry if not. And lengthen the spine away from the hips, crown of the head reaching away. And again, with or without binding, shift the weight into the right foot this time, lift the chest, and then come into your balance. So you could have the tiptoes on the floor for tree, or the foot could be above or underneath the thigh. If you're still binding, by all means, straighten that leg out. If you're in tree, press your palms. In tree, aim to have both hips equally facing forward. Often the right hip turns back a little bit more, which then doesn't really make it a hip opener, which is what we want. And then from wherever you are, bend the standing leg, lean forward and step down. And then place your left hand down inside the left foot or fingertips, or use a brick. Step the other foot back so that you're retracing your steps. An inhale could float the right arm up. And then with the exhale, place your hands to the ground, either side of the front foot. Inhale, come to plank. And there is an option for the last side plank. With or without forearm down is up to you. Stacking your feet or using that modification where the top foot is on the floor, lifting the right arm. If you feel like experimenting, there could be a floating up of the leg. Please don't injure any furniture, and please don't injure yourself. Take an inhale, come up, and then vinyasa or not, entirely up to you. And eventually, downward dog, dropping the knees, and come into a child's pose. And the knees can be as wide as the hips, or they can be wider than the hips. The hands could come underneath the forehead. You can stack your fists. So find a way of supporting the forehead if it doesn't land on the floor. Feel the rhythm of your breath. Take an inhale and make your way up and swing your legs forward. And place your heels as close to the hips as you can comfortably get them. And then cross your arms and hold on to your outer knees. And let the knees fall out just a little bit to the extent that they can. Take an inhale and sit up tall, lengthen the spine. And then exhale, actively press the knees out a little bit more so that the shoulders are stretching. Maybe sort of snuggling the arms along each other a little bit more. Then take an inhale and come back up. And then just change the crossing of the arms, hands to the outside of the knee, inhaling. And exhale. Come forward a little bit. And, you know, for you, there may be absolutely minimal movement, and that's normal. The hips can be very tight. So, you know, maybe for you, the last few days have meant less mobility, less activity than before, a lot of sitting, and the hips could be even tighter. Take an inhale and lift back up. And then place your feet flat on the floor in front of you and have them about hip distance. And if you have a book or even a couple of books or a yoga block, you could have that by your side. And then roll onto your back. And press the feet into the ground and lift the hips and press the elbows into the ground, and you can lift the forearms. And please don't try and see me here. Just try and follow my voice. So you're in a bridge pose, the hips are lifted. Drop the inner thighs down. So imagine you have a brick between your thighs and you want to sort of shift it down very slightly. And then if you have a brick handy or a couple of books handy, then place it at an appropriate height underneath the sacrum, which is the very end of your spine, so the very bony bit underneath the lower back. And make sure this is not in any way uncomfortable. If it is, then keep your sacrum on the floor, please. And you could take the arms out, you can turn the palms down, and then lift one knee. Maybe lift both knees so the feet are off the floor. Keep the back bend, so keep lifting the chest up, press the shoulders down. Try and keep your head completely centered. Do not look to the side, please, if you can avoid it. If you feel comfortable, lift the legs up towards the ceiling. And certainly the legs don't have to be straight. For most people, it'll feel much more comfortable to keep the knees a little bit bent. But think about dropping the tailbone down on the far end of the brick, so away from the chest, let's say, so that there is still this little element of a back bend. And then bend the knees. And just keep the knees bent and hang here for another moment with the hips still elevated. And then eventually, slowly, one after the other, drop your feet to the ground. Press your feet into the floor, lift the hips, remove the brick. And think about lifting the tailbone to the backs of the knees now as you very slowly bring the lower back towards the floor. So try and touch all vertebrae of the lower back into the floor before the sacrum touches, and then as it does, relax, and then that will probably lift the lower back very slightly off the floor again, and then you're on the ground. Take your feet as wide as the mat, so pretty wide. Still parallel feet, arms a little distance away from the body. And then drop the knees to one side, pick them back up, drop them to the other side. And just do a few rounds of this, releasing the hips. And when you've done both sides an equal amount of time, come back to center, feet still wide, drop the knees. And press the back of the head into the floor. Lift your shoulder blades off the ground, spread them, and then release them back into the ground. And either stay here or stretch out your legs so that the feet are as wide as the mat, and that will bring you into Shavasana. And if this is not an entirely comfortable position for you to be in, then you could come to sit or lie on your front. Close your eyes if that feels comfortable. Consciously softening and relaxing the body. Allowing gravity to gently pull the body into the ground. Trusting that the ground can support you. Let go. And really take this time, the next couple of minutes in silence, to allow the body to restore its energy, absorbing the effects of the practice. Patience, the ability to bear with things, whether they're pleasant or unpleasant. It's just how it is right now. Patience requires an element of equanimity, which doesn't mean that we don't care, but it means that we're prepared to meet whatever arises with a heart that retains some element of contentment. So this is what we're cultivating. Take a few deeper breaths. Move gently the fingers and the toes. Reach the arms up and overhead and take a big stretch out, reaching in opposite directions. Take a big inhale here. And with the exhale, there is a softening and a releasing. And then walking the feet closer to you if you're lying on the ground or wherever you are, just make your way into a seated position that is comfortable. Maybe sitting cross-legged or kneeling. And once you arrive, rest your hands lightly on your chest. Eyes can be closed just for another moment. And with that same honesty, just checking in. How am I feeling now? With a sense of gratitude that you've just given yourself this time to practice. Take a big inhale. And with the exhale, release the chest down, release the chin down rather to the chest, release your hands down into your lap, and the eyes can open gently. And when you feel ready, lift the chin back up.